By their very nature, ancient mysteries are hard to solve. After all, people have been trying to crack them for decades, and they've got nothing but reasonable and a lot of unreasonable theories to prove it. The people who witnessed these events are long gone. Important evidence has disappeared over time, and entire civilizations have vanished without leaving behind clear answers. Some mysteries were buried with the only people who truly knew the truth. And today, we're going to explore 15 shocking ancient mysteries that no one has been able to solve. Let's begin this list with Number 15. Missing centuries of the Dark Ages. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, Europe entered one of the most mysterious periods in recorded history. Historians later called it the Dark Ages, because written records suddenly became rare. Compared to Rome, where everything was documented, the following centuries feel strangely empty. Entire decades passed with little more than fragments left behind. As Roman power disappeared, kingdoms rose across Europe. The Visigoths ruled Spain, the Franks expanded through Gaul, and the Lombards took parts of Italy. But unlike the Romans, they did not leave behind detailed histories. Literacy shrank, surviving mostly inside monasteries, and many events were never recorded at all. Because of that silence, experts have been forced to rebuild history through graves, ruined settlements, and buried artifacts. Even major disasters remain unclear, including the mysterious volcanic event of 536 AD that darkened skies across the world and caused famine in multiple regions. So, were the Dark Ages truly an era of collapse? Or did history lose the records? That question still divides historians today. Number 14. Troy's Lost Chronicle. Almost everyone knows the story of Troy, the city supposedly destroyed after a legendary war involving Achilles, Hector, and the famous wooden horse. But one enormous mystery still remains. Did anyone living during the real Trojan War ever record what actually happened? The main source for the war comes from Homer's Iliad, written centuries after the events it describes. While the poem contains realistic details about Bronze Age warfare and politics, it also includes gods, prophecies, and legendary heroes, making it difficult to separate history from mythology. Hittite records mention a city called Wilusa, widely believed to be Troy, along with conflicts involving Western powers connected to the ancient Greeks. Archaeologists later uncovered layers of destruction at Hisarlik in modern Turkey, including burned buildings, collapsed walls, and arrowheads dating close to 1200 BC. But no surviving chronicle describes the war itself. We mean, not a single one. It's like it didn't happen at all. If Trojan archives once existed, they may have vanished during the chaos of the Bronze Age collapse forever. Number 13. Missing Shang dynasty. Texts. The Shang dynasty ruled ancient China between roughly 1600 and 1046 BC and produced the earliest known Chinese writing. But despite ruling for centuries, most of their records completely disappeared, leaving historians with only fragments of their world. The most famous surviving evidence comes from oracle bones. Shang scribes carved questions onto animal bones and turtle shells before heating them until cracks appeared. The patterns were interpreted as messages from ancestors or spirits, and many results were recorded beside the questions. Thousands of these bones survived, revealing details about warfare, harvests, rituals, royal families, and even illnesses. Bronze vessels carrying short inscriptions also survived, proving writing already played an important role in Shang society. But these are only fragments, not complete histories, books, or philosophical texts. Historians believe far larger records once existed on bamboo or silk, materials that decayed long ago. If those missing texts had survived, they might have totally changed our understanding of early Chinese civilization and the Shang dynasty itself. Number 12. Was King Arthur real? King Arthur is one of the most famous figures in Western history and legend, but historians still cannot agree on one basic question. Did he actually exist? Stories about Arthur shaped medieval Europe for centuries, but separating the real man from the myth has become nearly impossible. One of the earliest possible references appears in the Welsh poem Y Gododdin, written around the 6th or 7th century. But even that evidence is uncertain because different versions of the poem exist, and only one mentions Arthur at all. Later accounts became even more dramatic. In the 9th century Historia Brittonum, Arthur appears as a British war leader who supposedly fought 12 battles against invading Saxons. One story even claims he killed more than 900 enemies by himself during a single battle. Centuries later, writers added Camelot, Excalibur, the Round Table, Merlin, and the Holy Grail, transforming Arthur into a legendary king. But behind all the myths, historians still wonder whether a real warrior once united early Britain against Saxon invasions before history slowly turned him into legend forever. Number 11. Forgotten Oxus civilization in the deserts of Central Asia. Archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a massive Bronze Age civilization nobody remembered existed. There were no surviving legends, no ancient histories, and no written records explaining who these people were. Today, historians call it the Oxus civilization, or BMAC, after sites discovered across Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and northern Afghanistan. Excavations revealed fortified cities, palaces, temples, fire altars, and massive defensive walls rising from regions that once looked completely empty. The civilization was highly advanced. Gold jewelry, bronze weapons, carved seals, and precious stones linked them to trade routes stretching toward Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Some religious structures even resemble later Persian fire temples, raising questions about possible connections to early Indo-Iranian beliefs. But the mystery deepens because the Oxus people left behind no known writing system. Nobody knows their real name, their language, or how their society was governed. Then, around 1700 BC, many settlements were suddenly abandoned. And without written records, one of Central Asia's oldest civilizations disappeared almost without a trace. Number 10. Rome's first forgotten kings. Before Rome became a republic, ancient traditions claim the city was ruled by kings for nearly 200 years. Names like Romulus, Numa Pompilius, and Tarquin the Proud became central figures in Roman history. The issue is that almost every original record from that era vanished long ago. According to Roman tradition, many early archives were destroyed when the Gauls attacked Rome around 390 BC. Later historians such as Livy had to rebuild the story using oral traditions, religious accounts, and fragments of older records. Because of that, Rome's earliest history became a mixture of fact, myth, and political storytelling. Archaeologists have uncovered structures from the royal period, including temples, drainage systems, and fortifications beneath the city. Those discoveries prove early Rome was already growing into an organized power. But linking those remains to specific kings is almost impossible. Some rulers may have been real historical figures, while others were likely reshaped into symbolic characters supporting Roman ideals. Without the lost records, the truth behind Rome's first kings may never be fully known. Number 9. Angkor's hydraulic collapse. Angkor wasn't just a city filled with temples. At its peak, it was one of the largest urban centers on Earth, powered by a gigantic network of canals, reservoirs, and waterways spread across Cambodia. The Khmer Empire had mastered water on a scale few civilizations ever achieved. And yet, somehow, that same system may have helped destroy them. For centuries, massive reservoirs called barays stored water from seasonal monsoons, feeding farms and supporting nearly 1 million people. The network was so big that it can still be seen from the air today. But then the system started failing. Scientists discovered evidence of severe droughts followed by violent floods during the 14th and 15th centuries. Canals became clogged, embankments collapsed, and repairs appeared rushed and desperate. The deeper archaeologists investigate Angkor, the more it looks like a civilization struggling to keep its own infrastructure alive. And that's the mystery. How could one of the most advanced hydraulic systems in history suddenly spiral into collapse? Was it a climate disaster, or a system that simply became too massive to survive? Number 8. Persia's lost satrap records. The Achaemenid Persian Empire stretched from Egypt to India and ruled millions of people across dozens of cultures. Such a massive empire could only survive through careful administration, detailed taxation, and constant communication. Yet most of Persia's official records completely vanished. Persian kings divided the empire into provinces called satrapies, each governed by officials known as satraps. These governors handled taxes, military forces, trade, and local laws while reporting directly to the king. Historians know that enormous archives once existed because fragments of them survived in places like Persepolis. The Persepolis fortification tablets reveal a highly organized bureaucracy tracking grain, wine, livestock, wages, and travel supplies with remarkable precision. Some records even mention women managing estates and overseeing workers. But the vast majority of Persian documents disappeared, likely written on papyrus or destroyed during Alexander the Great's conquest of Persia. If those missing archives survived, historians might understand exactly how the ancient world's largest empire truly operated behind palace walls. Alright guys, now let's talk about number 7. The Rongorongo writings. Easter Island is already famous for its giant stone statues. But hidden among the island's mysteries is something even stranger. A lost writing system nobody has been able to read. Known as Rongorongo, the script consists of carved symbols and glyphs discovered on wooden tablets during the 19th century. Missionary Ugni Irod first described them in 1864, but the carvings were already centuries old by then. What shocked researchers most was where they were found. Easter Island sits in one of the most isolated places on Earth, thousands of miles away from major civilizations. But the Rongorongo symbols appear to represent a structured writing system created independently from the rest of the world. If true, the island's inhabitants may have invented writing entirely on their own. The biggest mystery is that nobody can decode it. Not a single inscription has been fully translated. Because the island remained isolated for so long, the language behind the symbols has no obvious connection to nearby cultures. And without a key to understand the script, the meaning behind Rongorongo may remain lost forever. Number 6. The Sajama lines. Deep in western Bolivia, thousands of strange ancient lines stretch across the ground in every direction, forming one of South America's biggest archaeological mysteries. Known as the Sajama lines, they cover nearly 8,700 square miles across the landscape, making them even larger than Peru's famous Nazca lines. The lines were first noticed by Western explorers in 1932, but local indigenous communities had known about them for generations. Each line measures between 3 and 10 feet wide and runs across hills, plains, and rough terrain with astonishing straightness. Together, they create a gigantic web visible from the air. What makes the mystery so unsettling is how little anyone knows about them. Archaeologists believe indigenous groups created the lines centuries ago by clearing dark volcanic stones from the ground, exposing lighter soil underneath. But no one knows why they were made. There are no written records, nearby inscriptions, or explanations for their purpose. Ceremonial pathways, spiritual routes, astronomical markers, or territorial boundaries have all been suggested. But after decades of study, the true meaning behind the Sajama lines still remains completely unknown. Number 5. The Sea People's invasion around 1200 BC. The ancient Mediterranean world suddenly began collapsing. Mycenaean palaces were destroyed, the Hittite Empire disappeared, major trade cities burned to the ground, and even Egypt struggled to survive. Historians now call it the Bronze Age collapse, but nobody fully agrees on what caused it. One of the biggest mysteries centers around the Sea Peoples, a coalition mentioned in Egyptian records during the reign of Ramses III. Temple carvings at Medinet Habu show battles against invaders arriving by sea with families, wagons, and weapons, suggesting entire migrating populations instead of ordinary raiders. At the same time, cities across the eastern Mediterranean were being destroyed. Trade networks collapsed, bronze became scarce, and several writing systems vanished completely. Archaeologists found desperate letters from rulers begging for help shortly before their cities were wiped out forever. Most historians blame invasions, while some point to famine, drought, and internal rebellions. Whatever happened, one thing is clear: entire civilizations vanished within a single generation. Number 4. Pre-Islamic Arabia. Long before the rise of Islam, Arabia was filled with kingdoms, caravan cities, temples, and trade routes connecting the ancient world. But much of that earlier history was slowly buried beneath time, leaving behind one of the most overlooked mysteries in the Middle East. Ancient kingdoms like the Nabateans, Leonites, and Himyarites once controlled major trade routes stretching from Rome to India. Across deserts in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Yemen, experts found thousands of inscriptions carved into cliffs and stone walls in forgotten scripts that many people still cannot fully read today. Ruins of temples, forts, tombs, and oasis cities reveal societies far more advanced than historians once believed. Entire cultures flourished across Arabia centuries before Islam appeared. Yet much of their history vanished. The strangest part is how incomplete the picture still is. Tens of thousands of ancient inscriptions remain untranslated, while many archaeological sites are still buried beneath the desert. Meaning Arabia's lost kingdoms may have left behind entire tales the modern world still hasn't uncovered. Number 3. Temple of the Jaguar. Hidden inside the Maya city of Lamanai in Belize stands the Temple of the Jaguar, a structure covered with faded murals, carved glyphs, and mysteries historians still cannot fully read. Unlike many Maya cities abandoned around the 9th century AD, Lamanai survived for centuries, remaining active long after neighboring centers collapsed. The temple was built around 600 AD during the height of Maya civilization. Jaguar imagery covered its walls because the jaguar symbolized kingship, warfare, night, and the spiritual world in Maya belief. Murals painted in red, yellow, and black once showed rulers, rituals, and scenes from the sacred Maya ball game tied to myths about the underworld. Glyphs surrounding the artwork recorded dates, offerings, and royal titles, but large sections remain unreadable due to erosion and gaps in Maya translation. Archaeologists estimate that Maya writing is still not completely deciphered. Much of the temple still lies buried beneath jungle soil, meaning entire murals and inscriptions may remain hidden underground today. Number 2. Gupta Golden Age. The Gupta Empire is often called India's Golden Age, a period when mathematics, astronomy, literature, sculpture, and philosophy flourished across northern India. Yet strangely, one of the brightest intellectual eras in ancient history left behind surprisingly few surviving records. Founded around 320 AD by Chandragupta I, the Gupta dynasty expanded under rulers like Samudragupta and Chandragupta II, creating a stable empire that encouraged scholarship and artistic achievement. During this era, Indian mathematicians formalized the decimal system and introduced zero as a number rather than a simple placeholder. Astronomer Aryabhata described the Earth rotating on its axis centuries before European science accepted the idea. Sanskrit literature also reached extraordinary heights through poets like Kalidasa, while the Ajanta cave murals displayed remarkable realism and detail. But most Gupta texts were written on fragile palm leaves that decayed over time. Wars, invasions, and destroyed libraries erased countless works, leaving historians with brilliance preserved mostly through fragments today. Number 1. Olmec Cascajal block in Veracruz, Mexico. One strange stone slab may hold the oldest writing ever found in the Americas. Known as the Cascajal block, it was discovered in the late 1990s and later studied by archaeologists who noticed something unusual carved into its surface. The slab is small, but its markings are not random. It carries 62 symbols arranged in neat rows, Some look like corn, insects, thrones, and abstract shapes. That order makes the block feel less like decoration and more like a message from a vanished language. If the markings are true writing, then the Olmec may have created a script centuries before the Maya. That would change the story of literacy in the Americas completely. But the mystery is painful because no second example has ever been found. No books, no monuments, no matching inscriptions. Just one lonely stone. So what does it say? A ritual? A ruler's name? A record of offerings? For now, the Cascajal block speaks, but nobody can read its voice. Well, that's all from us. If you've enjoyed watching this video, be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe. Thanks for staying with us, and we'll see you in the next one.